Greetings, stars! This is Mad Hatter Patrick. We have seen many things happening in 2023. Some are wonderful to see again, some are pretty bad, and some on a lovely tear-dropping high note with some shows like the main Pokemon series, Hilda, Summer Camp Island, and The Owl House, and many other crazy stuff. But in regards to 2023, it has been considered one of the worst years for movies in Hollywood. Don't get me wrong, there are some amazing movies that did become hits like Barbie, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, Guardians 3, and even some of the anime movies like Across the Spider-Verse, Mutant Mayhem, and of course Elemental. However, the box office on the other movies didn't make it. Why is that? 2 words: artificial intelligence. Ever since the growing rapid technology and AI software such as ChatGPT and DALL-E 2 became accessible to the public, studios decided to experiment with the latest technology. However, the AI tools used in 2023 end up becoming more like a toy than an innovation. A good example are the fake uncanny posters that keep uploading on YouTube, or the obscure song cover sung by your favorite fictional character like SpongeBob, Homer Simpson, or whatever you can think of. Even when studios use AI to help their content, it really didn't help at all with stuff like Secret Invasion and The Flash. Not only was the tool mishandled, but it ended up hurting the movie or show on showing off some unrealistic visuals and non-existent substance. A robotic computer can't replicate someone's art all by itself, no matter how many tries it would take or what it finds on the internet. Because of the automatic AI generation, writers and actors decide to go on strike until they are paid fairly, including streaming residentials, get better working environments, and most importantly, have their jobs and life be protected from AI. And during the strike, they would not help promote or market the project they are a part of until the strikers and studios reach an agreement, which is why some of the summer movies became box office bombs, or the upcoming movies had to be delayed to 2024 or so. Eventually, long story short, deals were made to satisfy all 3, and everyone returned to filming. The moral of the year is, a machine can't replace a person and should never steal their lives. But that's not all. 2023 has 2 100 anniversaries from 2 popular studios, starting with Disney. There were some great things to remember from it, like Once Upon a Studio, Guardians 3, Elemental, and even Wish. But there was a case of quantity over quality. There were too many content from Marvel, Lucasfilm, and a few others that people didn't have the time to go see them on the big screen. They had to wait for them on Disney Plus, even though it would take 2 or 3 years to happen now. Or people were just not interested to see them on the big screen. Some of them didn't even deserve to be flops, nor the cold shoulder at all. However, the real worst 100th anniversary would have to come from Warner Brothers. Admit it, you totally forgot Warner Brothers even had a 100th anniversary. Yes, there was some love from Wonka and Barbie, but all their DC movies bombed really hard last year. Marvel survived by a hair with Guardians and extra seasons of Loki and What If. DC, however, they went back to the same mistakes from the Snyderverse by trying to bring back Justice League and Batman v Superman, but substitute them with the Justice Society and Black Adam v Superman. Plus multiple delays, several controversies from their celebrities, and the DCEU ended for good. No more Snyderverse, no more Marthas, no more Black Adam v Superman, no more anything. All of our favorite DC heroes and villains are going back to square one. Again. But that's not all. Remember last year when Warner Bros. Discovery had zero taste in animation, where they cut off all their original content off from math, and they canceled some completed or near completed movies like Batgirl and Scoob Holiday Hunt? Well, they did it again with a new Looney Tunes movie called Coyote vs. Acme. Despite being 100% completed and receiving some good thumbs up at private screenings, including celebrities, WBD decided, let's do another tax write-off. That would be a wonderful 100th anniversary present. And yes, I know Coyote vs. Acme technically survived and is at a limit on finding a home on streaming service, but nowadays, including animation fans, nobody really seems to trust Warner Bros. Discovery on how they're handling their content. How can they be so sure the next greenlit project is going to be safe from anything? Are there going to be more canceled stuff next year to save on money? Nobody knows, and they don't want to take their chance on Warner Bros. Discovery for help. The only thing that ended up winning in 2023 is the independent project. Stuff like The Brave Locomotive and The Amazing Digital Circuit. The people that actually made these wonderful videos have the creative freedom to bring their ideas to life with no trouble at all. So yeah, 2023 was seriously hard to sit through. But the good news is that there will be no more AI takeovers for now. For now, let us count on these upcoming animated films to get us out of this insanity. As previously stated on my yearly reviews, I'm not going to see all of them. They may not reflect in theaters or streaming. I'm just going to share my initial thoughts based on the trailers and news given to me at this time. But first, here are a few honorable, unannounced, and unofficial hybrid and other anime films. Harold and the Purple Crayon. I'm on board with this idea, even if it's based on a children's story. Hopefully it will have a Chalk Zone style imagination and faithfulness to the book. If it's Ryan Reynolds meets foster home for imaginary friends, and I'm intrigued and curious about this. In Your Dreams, let's see what kind of dreams will occur in this movie. Hopefully some weird ones. Mufasa the Lion King. Is Lion Guard not enough? I feel like we're not that interested in Mufasa and Scar's origins in this live-action cinematic universe. Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Now that I had a good time with the sequel than its own predecessor, I'm fully in on movie number 3. Promise me it will have the same energy and new updates as the second one. Spellbound. Now that the movie's being moved from Apple TV Plus to Netflix, I feel like something is really off. Now I have no high hopes for this movie or Skydance animation. Fixed. It's an adult anime movie about dogs getting fixed. I have no idea what to think of this yet. Saving Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Cheeks movie. I feel like it's law now that every SpongeBob character should have their own spin-off. That's all I have to say. An untitled Winnie the Pooh movie by Baboon Animation. Please lift the horror movie curse. Show everyone how to do the silly old bear right. Thelma the Unicorn. I never actually read this book, so we'll see. An untitled Wallace and Gromit movie. Take my money or digital money. I want to see these two again on New Grand Adventures. Now that I got those out of the way, here are the 10 movies that I believe that are worth talking about. Orion and the Dark. Even though it's a DreamWorks anime movie on Netflix, this one seems pretty intriguing. It's about a boy who's afraid of pretty much everything, including the dark, so he gets visited by the Dark and some of his darkness friends to show that there's nothing really scary about the dark. There's actually some wonderful things to like from it. I really don't have that much to say about this upcoming anime movie, but I really do like the design of Darkness and his friends and how they move around the shadows. And I kind of like this idea that there's actually some goodness in the darkness as there are some goodness in the light. This kind of premise reminds me of one of my childhood games, Pajama Sam, No Need to Hide When It's Dark Outside, where Sam dressed up as a superhero to try to capture darkness in his closet by trapping him in a lunchbox. But he learns that there's actually some wonders about the darkness, and he actually befriends darkness in the end instead of defeating him. Well, he does kind of defeat him. He beat him in a game of cheese and crackers. However, I am a bit curious about the connection between Orion and the Dark and how will Orion face his own fears, so I'll keep my eye out for it. Kung Fu Panda 4. Really? Another sequel? Okay. Now, if I can be honest, I really didn't ask for a fourth Kung Fu Panda movie. I like the movies, especially movie number 2, but I thought movie number 3 was a good ending for Po being the Dragon Warrior and all. But it turns out there's actually more to Po's journey than we actually realize. So in this upcoming sequel, Po has to decide who will become the new Dragon Warrior as he becomes the spiritual leader. But there's a new threat called the Chameleon that's going to absorb all the villains that Po has ever faced and try to destroy the Valley of Peace. Now, with the side plot involving Po trying to find a new Dragon Warrior, it's actually not a bad idea. I hadn't even considered that as a possibility for the Kung Fu Panda universe. I really like the idea that there are Dragon Warriors in every generation in the Valley of Peace. It feels like a callback to one of the Legend of Oznet episodes where Shifu explains to Po that there was another Furious Five before the Furious Five that Po knew and loved about. Even the new villain, the Chameleon, is pretty cool, and what's cool about this particular Chameleon-type villain is that she used sorcery. But that's not all. She used one of her spells to bring back one of Po's oldest enemies, Tai Lung, the main villain from the first movie. And it feels like he's going to play a bigger role in this sequel. However, there are two problems with this upcoming sequel that's in the way on trying to top movie number 2. One is the formula. You can tell that from these Kung Fu Panda movies that the formula is becoming so repetitive lately. What I mean is, in every Kung Fu Panda movie, Po keeps getting a new promotion. In the first movie, he was the Dragon Warrior. The second movie, he was the hero Black and White. The third movie, he was the teacher. And in the fourth movie, he's going to become a spiritual leader. What's going to be his new promotion in the fifth movie? The God of Kung Fu? And second, there's very little possibilities on who will become the new Dragon Warrior, and I feel like the sequel just gave away on who will become the new Dragon Warrior. So my personal prediction that it's going to be this new character named Zen. Yes, it's already established in the trailers that Zen is a thief, but she will become good and she might become the new Dragon Warrior if she actually helped Po defeat the Chameleon. There may be a second possibility that Tai Lung might be the new Dragon Warrior if he ever decides to become good, but I'm not really sure honestly because the spirit around, the backstories and stuff. Also, you may notice that the Furious 5 will be joining Po on his adventure because apparently they're having their own adventures for some reason, even though they will appear briefly. Why take them out of the equation? That would bring in more possibilities on who will become the new Dragon Warrior. It would be the perfect throwback to the first movie when Master Oogway chose the Kung Fu Panda. The only plus to Po's adventure is that two of his dads will be joining him on his adventure. His biological dad, Lee, and his adopted dad, Mr. Ping. But despite those concerns, I have a feeling that I will have a fun time with this movie. I actually prefer a new Kung Fu Panda trilogy than a new Trolls trilogy. The Garfield movie. Chris Pratt is back playing one of your favorite cartoon characters, only this time, it's a cat. So in this Garfield adaptation, it's about Garfield meeting his dad, voiced by Samuel L. Jackson, that they had to do some father and son bonding time by going on this road trip. Okay, before I talk about what did I think of the plot, what do I think of Chris Pratt as Garfield in this? Well, honestly, Chris Pratt is actually really good as Garfield. Sure, he's not Lorenzo Music, but you can tell from his voice acting, he really put in a lot of improvised that you totally believe Garfield would say something like this in one of his comics or his Saturday morning cartoon. Lines like, "That's how I adopt John," or "I never jump," and those lines were pretty funny. He even captured the personality of Garfield as a whole, where he actually looks at the camera and breaks the fourth wall while he's eating the lasagna. The one scene from the trailer that really caught me off guard is the origins of where Garfield comes from. In the original comic, specifically Garfield His 9 Lives, Garfield was born in an Italian restaurant, but he was sent to a pet store due to his obsessive eating. In this adaptation, Garfield is a lonely kitten. His mom is never seen in this. The dad wasn't even mentioned in the comics until this version. He actually met John at a pizza place, and when John feeds him some pepperoni pizza, Garfield actually gobbled the whole thing down and started to eat everything inside the restaurant. What started out as something emotionally cliche, but then all of a sudden it just went crazy like the plot turned everything around. I actually didn't see that coming and laughed really hard at that part. There is one problem that keeps the Garfield movie away from being a great movie, and that is Garfield's daddy issues. We've seen this plot before in stuff like a Goofy movie, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and every other family film you can ever think of. Seriously, every episode of the cartoon has a cinematic story than this one. And another thing that seems a bit off is the animation. The designs look pretty good on Garfield and Odie, but they went way too far on the texture. Like, they're trying to make their fur so realistic, even though they could have gone with a simplistic design like in the comic strips. I also wasn't a fan on some of the product placements like Olive Garden, and apparently Garfield has his own balloon at a parade for some reason. I know there's gonna be some funny jokes in this movie, but the plot's gonna have to try really hard to win everyone over. Inside Out 2. I'm really happy that it's actually going to happen. I have no objections over it. I'm not gonna skip it until Disney Plus. I'm gonna see it once it finally comes out. Now I know what you're thinking. The first one ended perfectly. Leave it alone. Don't add anything else. There's no way the second movie can go beyond perfection. But that's the thing. There's still a lot of ideas they can do with Inside Out, specifically with the human mind. In fact, in early concept arts and deleted scenes, there were originally going to be more emotions outside the 5 main characters and a few other ideas. Well, it looks like in this sequel, those early arts will be resurfaced on the big screen. So in this one, Riley turns 13, but the puberty button went off like crazy, and the control center gets a new upgrade and a new emotion called anxiety. However, there's actually going to be more emotions besides anxiety. And they don't just give it away on one of their taglines like be anxiety, be jealousy, or whatever. They actually show the upcoming new emotions on one of their posters. There were so many things to love about the sequel announcement. One is that I love that it picks back right where we left off from the first movie, where they warned us about the puberty button, and Joy telling us that Riley's turning 13, and she asks, what could happen? Well, demolition time, that's what happened. But I do have one question about the new emotions, which goes back to the first movie. Where did they go? Why didn't we see them from the minds of Riley's parents and the other characters from the post-credits scene? Were they hiding in the bag, or were they just bottled up? When we see Anxiety for the very first time, Anxiety is already a memorable and likable character, and I especially love her design. She looks like a Muppet. And of course, this movie is going to be another puberty movie like Turning Red, only this time it will be in the perspective of Riley, since it is her mind after all. So we're going to see how she thinks during her teenage years. So if I had to pick which upcoming anime movie I'm looking forward to this year, it's gotta be Inside Out 2. I'm looking forward to see joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust again, but also meet the new emotions like anxiety. Despicable Me 4. Really? Another one? I don't know. I feel like I'm already getting Despicable Me fatigue. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Despicable Me. I like the first movie, the second movie, the third movie. I even have a soft side from the first Minions movie. It's just that I'm already getting tired of these new Despicable Me movies starring Gru and the Minions. I even skipped the second Minions movie because of all the delays and that the trailers show us too much of it. But when I think of movie number 4, I really can't think of any ideas what else are they going to do with Gru, with the Minions, the girls, and everyone else in this movie. I feel like it will have a bad case of quantity over quality where they're going to bring back all the main characters from the 3 movies. And it's going to pick up right where we left off, where Gru's go after his twin brother Drew and the Minions, and the Minions chose him as their new leader. But outside of that, there's nothing much to it. We don't even have a trailer what this story is going to be about. So I'm predicting that the main bad guy is just going to be Drew, but they're going to figure out a way to make him good once more, like in the 3rd movie. And of course, they're going to recast someone to play Dr. Nefario because obvious reasons. Even though the franchise made tons and tons of money, it's not going to win me over seeing the 4th movie that easily. I need more information to decide, because otherwise, I'm going to skip this one like Rise of Gru. The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie. Okay, is this movie 100% safe? Is it not going to be deleted? Because if it's going to appear on the big screen as a hand-drawn 2D anime movie, I want to go see this movie. What's really interesting about this particular Looney Tunes movie is that this is the first anime movie that is not a live-action anime hybrid like Space Jam or Looney Tunes Back in Action. It's not even a compilation movie like the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner movie or Daffy Duck's Quackbusters. This is a full-length animated film that is actually an original Looney Tunes movie. This movie is actually a spin-off to one of the Looney Tunes movies on Max, where it's reminiscent to the golden age of Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies. As for the plot of the movie, it's going to be about Daffy Duck and Porky Pig going on some crazy hijinks while trying to stop an evil secret invasion, because they come across this bubblegum factory where they discover the aliens are trying to take over the world using mind control. And what's particularly interesting about this Looney Tunes movie that Bugs Bunny is not the star of the movie. It's going to be Daffy Duck and Porky Pig, which does make sense since Daffy does have a long history on Porky being friends before his rabbit season and duck season years. However, just because Bugs Bunny is not the star of the movie, that doesn't mean he's not going to make an appearance in this movie. There's a chance that he will make a cameo in this, along with the other Looney Tunes characters. I mean, if the plot's going to be about a secret alien invasion, you gotta mention Marvin the Martian somewhere. In fact, Porky Pig and Daffy Duck are not the only Looney Tunes characters that are going to appear in this. Porky's girlfriend, Petunia, is also going to appear in this. I'm not gonna lie, there's this part of me that's hoping that this Petunia is gonna be the same Petunia from the Looney Tunes cartoon, where she's always positive and optimistic, despite all the things that went wrong. They were really funny. So in conclusion, I'm going to check out this upcoming Looney Tunes movie this year, and it better not get cancelled. Transformers 1. Transformers 1? What kind of name is that? It's like calling Toy Story 1, or the first Shrek movie Shrek 1. Now, before I talk about this upcoming Transformer movie, I had to confess, I had never played any of the Transformer toys. I never even seen any of the Transformer movies, whether it be the animated movie that was released in the 80s, or the Michael Bay movies. But I do know one thing about the live-action movies, I really dodged a lot of bullets on skipping these movies. Now, granted, there was a comeback with the live-action movies with the Bumblebee spin-off, but for Rise of the Beast, I'm really not sure. But when it comes to this upcoming anime Transformer movie, This one is mostly pretty interesting and original, even by Transformers standards, where it's actually going to be an origin story behind the Autobots and the Decepticons and their home planet. And the movie's going to briefly explain why did the robots move from their home planet to Earth, and there will be some tie-ins to the live-action movies. Now, in concept, it does sound like a really good idea on making an origin story behind the Transformers, but I don't know, do we really have to tie in this anime movie to the live-action movies? It would have been fine as its own standalone Transformers movie. We don't have to tie in anything to the Michael Bay movies. I'm sure there's going to be some cool fight scenes in this upcoming movie, many of which are going to translate well into animation. But I still don't know if I want to go see this movie. I'm going to need a trailer and more information to decide if I'm going to see this or not. And you know the old saying, they're more than meets the eye. The Wild Robot. Boy, DreamWorks Animation is really going to gamble on releasing 3 movies this year, even if one of them is on streaming. And just like Orion in the Dark, The Wild Robot is actually based on the book. And this one is really interesting and very fascinating. It's going to be about this robot named Roz that is stranded on an island and befriends some animals and learn to adapt on the island. There are so many ideas on what this animated movie could do when it comes to a robot adapting to these natural environments without destroying the environment. It's like something out of a Wall-E sequel if the Earth turned green again and it's now filled with animals. So yeah, for an upcoming movie called The Wild Robot, there are actually a lot of wild ideas on what's going to happen to this movie, so I'm curious to check this one out. The Lord of the Rings, The War Hero. Is Lord of the Rings still a thing? Was everybody talking about it? Okay, before I talk about this upcoming Lord of the Rings movie, it's only fair if I'm going to share my personal thoughts on the Lord of the Rings movie. The original trilogy, I like them, they're pretty good, and I do understand why they're one of the greatest fantasy movies of all time, and I did watch the anime movie directed by Ralph Bakshi, and it was good. I know some of you were expecting like I would go crazy over this upcoming Lord of the Rings movie, like some sort of Lord of the Rings fan or something like that, but I'm not much of a fan of Lord of the Rings, to be honest. I never even saw the Hobbit trilogy. Even with this upcoming movie, I'm really not in a rush to go see this Lord of the Rings movie because this is actually another prequel movie. It's going to take place centuries before the events of the Hobbit movie, where it's going to explain the origins behind this king called Helm Hammerhand on how he became the king or something like that. And that's just the thing. I'm not a Lord of the Rings expert. I don't have all the knowledge when it comes to Lord of the Rings at all. Of course, one of the best components of Lord of the Rings is the world building, where they explain all the places the characters journey through, as well as the characters themselves and what makes them fleshed out and make them who they are today, like Bilbo Baggins, Frodo Baggins, Gandalf, Gollum, and every other Lord of the Rings character you can ever think of. But to me, Lord of the Rings had a lot of information that it was just too much for me to remember. I would have to rely on the LEGO version to learn Lord of the Rings 101. I know there are going to be some cool fight scenes in this upcoming fantasy action-based movie, but I'm really not that interested to go see this upcoming Lord of the Rings movie because I really didn't have any questions regarding to the Lord of the Rings universe, even with the origin behind Helm Hammerhand on how he became king. Why would I look for any answers to the Lord of the Rings world building to this prequel when I can just watch the original trilogy to explain everything? So if you're really expecting this upcoming anime Lord of the Rings movie to be the one anime movie to rule them off, I would suggest lower your expectations a bit. That Christmas. Well, I missed Christmas already, so I had to put in an anime Christmas movie. Now last year, we were a bit dry with new anime Christmas specials, and the closest we got was an episode of What If. But I decided to talk about this upcoming anime Christmas movie because it's going to be produced by Locksmith Animation, the same company that made their debut with Ron's Gone Wrong. Even though I haven't seen the movie myself, I heard that it was a good start for Locksmith Animation. Some could argue that it did a good first impression than what Skydance did with Luck. Now, as of right now, there isn't that much to talk about on this upcoming anime Christmas movie because, after all, we are still in January. The closest we got is this concept art of 2 people in the snow filled with Christmas decorations. But just like Orion in the Dark and The Wild Robot, this movie is also based on a book, and for what I can gather, it mostly focused on trying some new Christmas traditions. What I mean is that this was the type of Christmas story that would give everything that they got, like new ideas or other crazy stuff. When the Christmas traditions become old and repetitive, they decide to do something a little bit different to make it more exciting. So if this upcoming movie is anything like the book it was based on, there could be a lot of ideas of what they can do with it, as well as put in a commentary when it comes to Christmas traditions. But as of now, we're just gonna have to wait and see on how this Christmas movie is going to turn out. And that's all I got for the upcoming anime movies of 2024. What do you think of these upcoming movies? Are you excited for them? Which ones are you looking forward to the most? Well, feel free to leave in the comments below, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for a new review of another project. I'm Matt Patrick, and spread love and kindness to one another.